All right, good morning, everyone. A quick recording about where you need to be heading this morning for your geography assessment. So, we've gone through lots of times the assessment task link. We've got in there your actual assessment task notification and the link to the fieldwork site. So, that's on Mr. Hancock has done up for you. All right, this morning I'm just going to step you quickly through what I would do if I was you in Year 10 Geography. So I would be opening a Google Doc straight away so that I can start to dump all my information in there. So open your document. Get started. I would be going back into style and opening up that report writing information that I sent through to you. I would highlight all these, and you might not need them all. You probably won't need them all. This is just a starting point. Okay. All right. So title. I'm going to take out the actual contents of what we need there. So these are going to be the headings. Obviously, a little bit of editing to do there. Not too much. I'm sure you're all very capable of that. I'll just pause it while I get that finished. All right, so let's have a look at these. The title of your report will be Environmental Change and Management in Lake Cat-Eye, so changing that. Hopefully you're doing this at the same time that you're watching this video, so you might have two split screens open and you're making these changes as I'm doing them, so you're not just sitting here getting a bit frustrated with my typing ability. Environmental Change and Management in Lake Cat-Eye. You might like to come back and make a little, maybe like a little one sentence about what you're going to study there, but I'll probably come back and do that at the end. So once you know what you're talking about. The table of contents, I'm going to show you really quickly in a minute how to do that really easily in Google Docs. Abstract, we don't really need that for this one, especially if once you finish you come back and you write a little bit of a sentence or two about what the reader's going to read in your report. This one will be a paragraph. You'll come back at the end and pop in a paragraph about what you found after doing your research through all this website and clicking through and getting all your understanding there to answer your questions. You'll look at an introduction, what you've researched and why. These headings will change as you put things underneath them and work out what you're going to talk about. Then you can change the subheadings for those. Definitely don't need a literature review in this one. This one's a little bit of a funny one this time around. Usually this would be your methodology for your fieldwork. However, we're not going out in person, so your methodology will be a bit limited there, but we're still going to include it because it's a really important part of a geography report. And a research report in general. So what I want you to do is talk about your methodology, which was, using the internet and the different types of maps that you looked at. Yes, it'll look a bit different than if we could get out and do this in the real world, but, it is what it is for now. So still leave methodology in, even though we won't be putting things in there like the measuring different things and looking at pH of different areas and information that we would probably do if we were actually in Lake Cat-Eye in person. So we will take out this section of that though, because that's not as important. So these are just the basics. You can include, and I would expect you to include other things as you go through and research the different things on this page. But these, I think, give you a really good starting point so that you're not just staring at a blank page. All right, I'm going to show you briefly how to do an easy table of contents. If you know how to do this, you can just skip forward. So the really important thing for this is making sure, we can come back and make that all fit properly later, making sure that you give everything a heading. So the table of contents is going to go here. Because we're making that, I'll delete that now, but it'll put that up there in a minute. So anything that's going to be a subheading and you want in your table of contents, you need to come up here and give it a style, if you like. So you need to give it some characteristics. So I'm going to give it heading 2, and I can come back and change heading 2 later and what it looks like and all that sort of fancy stuff. But just remember, we're not marking how fancy it is. We're marking the content of it. Obviously, it needs to be legible and readable and make sense, but don't panic too much about what it looks like. Right, now that I've given them a heading of heading 2, I can come back up here and go to Tools, Format, Insert, Table of Contents, and just go to this first one with page numbers. Pop that in, and what that does is pick up anything where I've put applied a heading to it. So all the ones with heading 2 there have popped into my table of contents. Really, really easy stuff. So table of contents, we'll give that its own heading. What this does is if you happen to, or as you move through and put your information in and your headings, bump down to different sections, you just come back up here, update it, and it changes the page numbers for where your headings are in your research report. So hopefully you find that handy, not just for this geography assignment, but for school assessments and research tasks in general. All right, so once I've done that, and it's looking a bit rough around the edges now, but that all will come together as we keep working on it. I would go back in and read through and have a look at the introduction to this page in general. You need to assume that whoever's marking this knows nothing about Lake Cat-Eye. Yes, we do, because we set the assessment, but what you need to start off with is explaining where Lake Cat-Eye is, why we would be looking at it for environmental change and management. So you would go to your introduction and talk about the location of Lake Cat-Eye. So see how I'm still in heading 2? So what I'm wanting to do there, so it doesn't pick up my paragraph, is just change it back to normal text. Okay, so then I can go ahead and type what I need to type. It's located on the coast, and you can write all that. I'm not going to write your assessment task for you, but you need to be really broad about where Lake Cat-Eye is, what it's located near, why it's increasing in population so much at the moment, and then generally why we have chosen this area for you to look at in terms of environmental change and management. And all that is found in here. Okay, so you can see here we've got these two, these are the two issues basically. Part of your assessment task is to talk about the stakeholders, so I'd pop them in here as well. I'm just going to pop them in here anywhere. We'll get this back up here, just showing you the example of how the contents page rewires itself when it needs to. And we may not use the heading stakeholders, but I would put it all in there. What else do we need to put in? So basically, I'm just trying to give you a bit of a skeleton of what you need to start looking at today. And the easiest way to do that is to start to get your document together. And then as you work through this page, and what I would do is I'd have these split open like that, so that I could be working in both of them at the same time, dragging information around. I will just show you just really briefly what I want you to do so you avoid making any mistakes about including pictures and graphs, etc. So if we look at some images, I'm just going to drag an image into our front section here. I think this one would be good. It's from the Camden Courier. Let's see if we can access that. Sometimes you need a subscription. All right. You know what? I'd be using this one in my assessment task, this whole document. So if you look that up and see, even if you can find other information. So it's a fairly recent article, so you could look at that. But the reason I came in here is to copy this image and put it into my report. But the really important thing that you need to remember and start doing as you come into senior school is to label anything that you include. We might just call this one photo 1, and it is comparison photo at Lake Hattah. The really important bit is to put the source, and that's the Camden Courier. And I would include when it was published. Because I've used this information off this website, the other thing I now need to do is highlight the whole website, come down to the bottom, put references in. Remember, I've got to give that a heading, a heading characteristic, which is heading 2. And I'll just dump that in there for now. Okay, you can come back and you can give that different properties, make it look different later. But you do need to just say when you accessed it. So that's the 24th of August, 2021. So that you acknowledge where you got that photo from. The other thing you would normally need to do as well, so you've put the caption underneath it. When you have included any picture or graph, you need to reference it in your text. So even though this one's just on the front page as a little bit of a picture for the whole report, if it was within the text, I would need to write somewhere in a paragraph above or below it what it was doing in there, why I've included it. So you might write something along the lines of, as can be seen in photo 1, the estuary does silt up and become non-tidal during the year. This results in the community needing to, or the council needing to drain the area. Okay, so that's a bit of a clunky sentence, but just to give you an example, you can't just throw some photos in because they look pretty or some graphs because they look great, which is what a few of us did run into when we did our food security posters and your magazine articles. So there were a lot of pictures just dumped in because you thought they looked really pretty. And in Year 10, heading towards Year 11, we just can't do that anymore. If you include a picture, it needs to have a reason for being in there, which means that you need to be able to reference it within your text, so in the paragraph above or below where you've put it. So make sure you're putting photo 1, or if it's a graph or something, figure 1 or table 1, and then onwards. So if you've got 3 tables in, they'd be table 1, table 2, table 3, and then you reference those tables within your text. So table 3 shows us XYZ, whatever table 3 is that you've included to put in there, or a graph or whatever. So graphs are usually labelled as figure. And you can go off and have a little bit of a search as well for a research report and what it should look like. Google Docs probably even have one in their templates if you want to jump in there and have a look at something like that as well. So that is how I would start your morning this morning. That is it for now. So you can come back and format all this. The important thing today is to start getting your information into here. Okay, so we've got a bit of an introduction here. You can look at that. And I think they've even quoted the Camden Courier in here, so even better. But you can read through this and get an idea of what your introduction could look like. Okay, the other page, so you need this page open, you need your Google Doc open. The other thing that I would have open as well is, of course, your assessment notification, so you know exactly what you're working on. I would even, if it was me, you don't have to, and you can take this out once it's finished, obviously, but copy that. So copy the bit that I need to write about, and I would pop that in here. Again, probably need a little bit of formatting there. Let's see if this makes any difference. probably still need to look at it. Definitely needs some what are we saying? Spaces when you drag it over from style. But you can work that out yourself. I'm not doing that now in front of you. This is just how I would go about my assessment. This is not how you have to do it. So these words would all come out later. But for now, I would dump them into my assessment task so that I knew where I was heading to make sure I was covering off all the information I needed to include to get marked. So that's what this information is here. You would take this out, like I said, drop it in here now so that you're focused on what you need to answer. But you'd then delete it before you hand your assessment in, which is why I've made it a different colour so that I know, that's got to come out at the end. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of insight of where you have to start heading with your assessment. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of information about how you will lay it out, especially using that automatic table of contents. Hopefully you find that handy. And like I've just added stakeholders in, you will of course add other headings in here and might delete some of the ones that I've used, and that's totally fine. I don't mind if you go on and find a research template and use that to base your information on. So I'm going to let you go now. I don't know, you probably hear my kids going feral in the background, so I'll go and see what they need. And I am on the email whenever you need me. So please send me an email if any of this today doesn't make sense or if you need some help with anything else. All right. Well, that's it from me today. And, oh, look, there we go. Oh, wow. Probably don't need sunnies today. Very cold day. All right. Have fun, guys. See ya.